Okay, Alan, if you want to start by introducing yourself.
Hi, my name's Alan Gould, and I'm Business Development Officer at Audit Certification. I've been working here for about 6-7 months now. I've been in the certification industry for 9 years. Next year's my 10th year, and excited to be here today to discuss the preparation of a Stage 1 audit.
So did you want to tell everyone how you first got into this industry?
Yeah, sure. So, long story cut short, I very first worked with the guys at Audit Certification in their previous capacities back in 2002. And I did my Year 9 work experience, and I was literally just delivering mail shots and putting them together ready to send out, licking envelopes, that kind of thing. Worked with the guys for 3 weeks. Funny story, actually, that they used to let me use their computer at lunchtime when I was bored. I was playing sort of solitaire and mini-clip, those kind of the games. And one day decided to see what would happen if my computer was dragged into the recycling bin. Of course, the result was pretty bad, and the whole mainframe system went down. So that I can definitely say that I left my mark on the organisation during those 3 weeks.
So you won't ever be a 27,001 auditor?
Probably not, no, unless the fail-safe controls are quite robust in that organisation.
Yeah, you did delete our entire computer system, didn't you? So, yeah, and we still employed you.
So, must have done something right.
Well, we've done something really wrong, I think. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about how an organisation would prepare for their Stage 1 assessment, what we call the initial assessment.
Okay. So what is a Stage 1 assessment?
A Stage 1 assessment is it's what we call a preparedness assessment. So an auditor would go into the organisation to verify that there's a management system that has been established. We're not actually looking to see whether the management system directly conforms to the clauses of the standards. That will come later, but we're just making sure that there is a management system in place, documents have been established, there's a policy, a scope, roles and responsibilities, and some operational controls have been established and awareness has been created.
So are they always done on site?
Well, a Stage 1 assessment can be done remotely, but it depends on the risk within the organisation. So, for example, if we're auditing a service provision company, then absolutely for 9001 we could do a remote assessment. But if the organisation are involved in higher risk activities such as construction and maybe some types of heavy manufacturing, then it would be more appropriate to go on site and conduct the audit there.
Okay. So is that up to the auditor to kind of decide on that? Oh.
Well, it's more up to the certification body to determine the risk associated with the organisation, and that will obviously come into the sales process. And when we do a contract review, we'll look at the risk level within the different standards that the organisation wish to be certified for, and then we can determine whether we can do an on-site or remote assessment.
Okay, what do you prefer?
Personally, I enjoy doing assessments on site. I think that remote assessments have their place, and especially the more hybrid way of working, which is quite prevalent now after COVID. But going on site, getting a real feel for the organisation, you'll get to see a lot more than what you would naturally in a remote assessment. And I think that enables a much better planning for a Stage 2 assessment.
I think it helps you build that relationship as well with the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it breaks down the barriers, things like that. Okay, cool. So why do we do Stage 1 assessments?
So the Stage 1 assessment is a critical part of the certification process. As I said before, what we're looking to do is to verify that the organisation have established documents, document control, they've established a policy, a scope of certification, they've excluded, justified any non-applicable clauses that they don't wish for us to certify for, but then also to verify that processes or procedures, process maps have been established and they are really implemented and integrated into the organisation, and that if and when the stage 2 assessment is conducted, that the organisation are able to demonstrate that their procedures and processes are being fully effectively operated.
So what's the benefit of having a stage 1 assessment then?
So the benefits of having a stage 1 assessment are multifactorial. So for us as a certification body, it enables us to get to know the client, get to know their organisation, get to know the structure, the context, and some of the activities that they're carrying out. But also for the client, it's good for them to get to know us and get to see how we operate, what our processes are, how we are going to conduct ourselves at the stage 2 audit, because obviously at the end of the stage 1, we need to start planning the stage 2 assessment, what processes we're going to be looking at. So the stage 1 really helps both of us to get a feel for each other, and ensure that we have a more effective planning and eventually effective conducting of the stage 2 assessment.
Okay. So is there a time when you have to have sort of the stage 1 before the stage 2 or anything, or can you just go straight from stage 1 into stage 2, or is it a bit of time? Does it depend?
Well, it depends really. If there are any gaps found at the stage 1 assessment, we don't actually raise non-conformities. We raise potential non-conformities, because stage 2 is where we are actually auditing against the clauses of the standard. So it depends really on how many issues the client has to resolve. But a back-to-back stage 1 and stage 2 assessment can take place, but it's not advisable. Really, we'd like to allow a certain period of time for the organisation to complete all of the tasks that they need to in order to then come forward for stage 2. The total amount of time, I believe, the stage 2 has to take place within 6 months of the stage 1 assessment. And that is one of the rules within our UCAS accreditation. If they can't have their audit for whatever reason within 6 months, then we'd have to start again at stage 1 again. So usually most organisations, unless they're going through sort of restructuring or operational difficulties, they're usually able to conduct the audit within 6 months. We obviously work with them the best we can in order to make that happen.
So have you ever turned up for a stage 1, just like nothing is ready?
Absolutely. I remember when I very first started auditing, I was pretty fresh, and myself and my colleague at the time turned up to a stage 1 assessment, and the client said to us, right, what do we need to do then to get certified? And I said, well, let's have a look at your management system. We start going through the documents, and they said, oh, I thought you were going to do that for us. And then we quickly realised that actually what they were looking for was a consultant. And obviously, as part of our, again, our UCAS requirements, we have to remain impartial to the process. So we can't get involved in any consultancy or giving of advice.
So it was a short-lived stage 1 then?
It was a very quick one. And unfortunately for the client, it's very hard to justify any sort of cancellations when it's on the day. Yeah.
I think stage 1s are helpful, because like before your time, we didn't do stage 1s, and quite often we'd turn up and we'd have exactly that same conversation, but that would be their total initial assessment, no stage 1. So there is a benefit to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does help. Like I say, it breaks down barriers and allows you to get to know people and things like that. So So what are the types of things you cover on stage one?
What we cover on a stage one is, to begin with, we'll go through the opening meeting, which is a set agenda as required by our accreditation rules, and we'll go through with the organisation the standard that we're going to be auditing them to, what the scope of certification that they wish to be certified to, which we will have had that information before at the sales order, sales entry process. We'll then go through the audit plan for the day. Even though an audit plan isn't necessarily required by stage one, we do always put an audit plan together just so that the client knows what we're going to be looking at for the day. And then we'll start looking at the management system, whether it's quality, environmental, or health and safety for the three standards that I audit. Having a look at the policies, making sure that the right commitments are in the policies, it's been approved or at least reviewed by senior management, and how that's communicated within the organisation. And then look at the scope of certification, as I mentioned too, and what the boundaries are, what the risks associated, and the industry for which they're going to be operating in. And then have a look at some of their procedures, their processes, their process maps, whether they're finished, because of course it is only stage one. So the organisation does have time between, as we said, between the stage one and stage two to finish any of these kind of documents, one of which I'll sort of allude to a bit later. But we also look at the roles and responsibilities, whether they've been defined. Obviously, within the management system, there's roles for most people in the hierarchy of an organisation, such as senior management. Obviously, the standards talk about leadership and commitment, and that really obviously comes down from the top, and we want to see that cascaded right down to the sort of operational and workers within the organisation. So all of this starts to give us a good feeling that the organisation has got a management system in place, and they're switched on, they're doing it for the right reasons, and that they are really sort of committed to continual improvement, which is, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We talk about the spirit of the standard, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to get an impression for at stage one. When we're talking about some of the documents, we look at management review, internal audits, objectives, and even though we're not actually auditing them thoroughly, we just look to see if they've been established, because, as I said, this is something that can be established between stage 1 and 2, and that's why we advise that there is a bit of time between those two, so that the organisation can have a little bit of exposure from us as the certification body auditors, and then look to establish their their objectives and also their procedures, and then do internal audits to check that the procedures have been suitably and effectively implemented and maintained, and then do your management review. And then it all starts to come together so that when we go to stage 2, everything's ready and we can just go for it.
So if they haven't done all of the bits at the stage 1, such as management review, internal audits, it's not a big deal, or it is a big deal?
Personally, I wouldn't say it's a big deal. Obviously, it's a potential non-conformity, so that would have to be raised in the report, and naturally, as it's a stage 2, we'll look at that anyway. So whilst I would say that it's advisable that an organisation tries to get their management system fully implemented before stage 1, because then it's starting to build that feeling that the organisation are ready, it's not the be-all and end-all. And there might also be discussions which take place at the stage 1 that will enable later activities for the organisation, which may then need management review, internal audit, etc.
Oh, okay. So sometimes they take the information from the stage 1 to do their management review and things like that. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, because the stage 1 will be the first time that they have been exposed to the whole ISO 9001, 14001 environmental, 45001 occupational health and safety management system process, is that they might start to raise more awareness within the organisation, and that will get people thinking, oh, okay, the auditors are going to be looking at this. They mentioned that. We need to think about that because that could come up at stage 2. So that's what I mean by additional actions.
Got to understand. They might learn something that they've got to do to dot the I's, cross the T's, so to speak. Do you speak to everyone in the organisation at stage 1, or is it?
I don't speak to every single person, but I personally would speak to all of the people that have a large contribution to the management system. So especially senior management, as I said to earlier, there's a requirement at stage 2 to conduct the senior management interview to really extract information about the context of the organisation. Context of the organisation, interested parties, risks and opportunities, but also their commitment to leadership and customer focus. So what I would do at stage 1 is have senior management interview preparedness period for an hour or so, just to go through with the client what the expectations would be from the stage 2, and to raise a bit of awareness and to get them thinking.
So they can go away and cheat and...
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a very formal discussion, but really all we want to know is what the organisation are trying to achieve, what their objectives are. Exactly. And just understand the strategic direction and how they're going to go about it. So once you start getting leaders talking, they don't stop, basically.
Yeah,
so,
we know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can an organisation do to sort of plan for the stage 1? Is there things they've got to do, or do they just wait for you to rock up? Or is there things that they could do to make the whole process go a bit smoother?
So an organisation can decide 2 ways to begin with. They can either put together the management system themselves, or they can go down the route of finding an external consultant to help them with the process. Obviously, the latter is much easier for them because they'll have an expert that can actually consult and advise them, and sometimes even give them a management system to work to. So we see both types of organisations at stage 1. If an organisation goes down the first option, then they really have to go through the plan, do, check, act cycle, and they need to plan out what they want the management system to achieve. They'd have to go through and start to create control documents, because obviously documented information is a.
So how can someone prepare themselves as an organisation? How can they prepare themselves actually for the stage 1? What can they do themselves?
Okay, so once they've established a management system, or as far as what they can do, they'd need to start raising awareness within their organisation, because often we find that you'll have the quality department or the environmental and health and safety EHS department that will put the management system together, but really it needs the buy-in from everybody. And as there's going to be multiple people and groups involved in the audit, they need to start liaising with the different departmental leads or even champions within certain subjects to really give them, raise their awareness and what is expected of them within the audit. Obviously, the audit process involves a lot of discussion and sometimes even interview style questions from the auditor. Obviously, we try to put people at ease as much as possible, but we're looking for specific information which relates to the standard and which relates to their processes. So people need to be well versed on how to answer our types of open-ended questions and give us the information that we're looking for. So as a certification body, a part of our process when we go through the planning of the stage 1 audit is to put together, as I said, a stage 1 audit plan. The stage 1 audit plan will detail the different processes, the timings on the day, and this will help the organisation to coordinate internally in order to ensure that people are available at the time specifically when we're going to come in and need their expertise.
Have you ever turned up and they weren't even aware that an audit was taking place? Have you had that?
Yeah, many times actually. Many times I've been to organisations and the auditee that I needed to speak to wasn't available, or they weren't aware that we were coming on site, and really that's quite detrimental to the organisation, because if they haven't prepared their staff, then it can cause them problems. However, on the flip side, it can be quite good, because if there are any potential issues raised, then that could lead to improvement opportunities. So actually what we see is that sometimes we go on site and people will be well prepared, well versed on the expectation. And sometimes the client will say, I haven't even told them that you're coming, because actually they want the benefit of putting their people in the spotlight. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever turned up to an audit though, and the auditee wasn't, like, no one was aware? Like, knock on the door, I'm here to do your audit, and they're like, what?
I think that happens less and less nowadays because of the improvements in technology, emails. All of our systems within Orva have multiple emails that go out to clients at different stages, so it would be very difficult for that to happen now.
I did have one the other week.
Really?
He wasn't aware. He actually got the days wrong. And interestingly, the consultant had other days in their diary, even though the letters all went out and things. It was quite, I mean, they were prepared, which is good actually. But yeah, he turned around, he was like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be tomorrow. It's like, no. And then we checked all the emails, and they even said the audit plan all had the right day, so I was safe. So it was his mistake, which fine. It was only a day early. He was all prepared. And then he said, oh, my consultant's not here. So he phoned the consultant. The consultant thought it was in 2 days' time. So I don't know what went on there. It happened. But to be fair, the audit went smoothly. So it was a good test of their system, to be fair.
That's the thing, isn't it? Internally, as an organisation, we try to mitigate that as much as possible, but you can't help human error. But one of the good testers there was that even though they weren't necessarily ready on that day, they were ready.
Yeah.
And that, again, gives a good impression, because sometimes you go to an organisation and I'll say, right, let's have a look at your management system. And they'll be like, there you go. Whereas here, obviously, it's more of a living, breathing thing. So they were probably more ready for that reason. So
it's cool. Okay. So what happens if you don't do a stage one assessment, or if we didn't have that in the requirements, or didn't do it properly, or let's just say the client wasn't prepared for the stage one? What can sort of go wrong? What could be the pitfalls?
Well, that could be quite a great issue, actually, because obviously all of the information that we gather at the stage one enables us to conduct a more effective and efficient stage two. So if the client didn't conduct or weren't ready for their stage one, we could have a number of processes when we turn up at stage two that we weren't aware about. And obviously that impacts our time to conduct the stage two audit effectively. And that could, again, cause a lot of findings for the client, for the organisation to put together before they're eventually certified. But really, we have to conduct a stage one. So that is part of what we call the initial assessment, the stage one and the stage two. And when we are quoting our clients, we have to give suitable time to do both of those steps, because they kind of marry together. You can't really do the stage two without the stage one. You can't run before you walk, right?
Very true. So you're saying that an effective stage two will occur or more likely to occur if you've done a really good stage one. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Absolutely. If anything, the stage one is just additional time for you to spend to get to know the client. And by the time stage two comes round, you've already met each other. You've done all your formal introductions. The client's already a little bit more at ease with you. And you've done all of that planning work with regards to the management system, the policies, the scope, the context, etc. And then you can really focus on the key processes and verifying whether they're being effectively conducted and also whether they meet the requirements of the standard, which is at the end of the day the goal.
So can someone actually fail a stage one?
I think the only way that you could fail a stage one is if you haven't got anything in place. You haven't got a management system. You just have no awareness of what's required by the standard. We could certainly go into an organisation that have got the bare minimum, the bare bones, and we would just raise many potential non-conformities. And then the organisation would need to go away and put all of those non-conformities right before they go for stage two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't fail, but you could have a big long list of things to work through.
Absolutely. And one thing that we always say is this isn't a pass-fail process. This is you're I don't like the word pass because it seems more checkbox kind of exercise, but you would achieve certification or you'd achieve certification with minors, majors, etc. And you have to put them right with evidence before you obtain your initial certification.
So you'd always sort of do a stage one and then progress to the stage two, or could you sometimes no, you've got to do another stage one? Does that happen? Yeah, if they didn't have anything, you'll probably do another stage one.
Yeah.
But is there a magic number of potential issues that?
I think what we have to be aware of as auditors is that the organisation aren't using us as a gap analysis tool. If you go into an organisation and they're not aware at all of what's required, then I would say you're not ready for stage two. And maybe it would be better for you to go away, do a bit of research. If you need to find some help from a consultant or just spend a bit more time getting through understanding the requirements of the standard. So you probably can, you can fail a stage one if nothing's in place. But again, we try to work with the organisation. We want to certify them. We want to help them as much as we can, but obviously we can't consult.
So when would someone need to have a stage one, or when should they sort of go ahead and have one?
So I would say that once the organisation has implemented their management system along with the control of documents, of records, of processes and procedures, and that they've done the activities of raising awareness, getting the buy-in from departmental heads, and conducted at least some internal audits, then they should go for their stage one. So what we'd like to see is that management system is 90% of the way implemented and ready for certification, because then if there's a few issues, then they can be rectified and then we'll go for stage two. But it's not always necessary that all internal audits are conducted, because of course there might be some findings at stage one that require re-audits and management review being conducted. They're really the only two activities that we often see that haven't been completed at stage one, but then will be done by stage two. All of the control of documents, the procedures have been established, even goals and objectives that have been established and they've been communicated. It's really just those two activities that take place.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. Really enjoyed it.
It's been good.
Good.
Speak soon.
Cheers.